Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Story number 1. Why We Fight, written by Soul But Better. What is the price of your peace? He stood with his back to Abyssal, 9 paces forward, his gold-trimmed black coat fluttered and rustled in the midnight wind, seeming to cast an almost intangible silhouette against the moon. Abyssal stopped. What was the question? Mind games, maybe. He offered no explanation to the man before him. Rather, he took another step forward as the cloaked figure spoke again. How many need suffer and die for your vision of utopia that cares not for them? How many need fall to the wayside so that you can say that you brought peace? The last 3 words seemed to thud with each syllable, echoing across the moonlit sky. Abyssal felt his heart wavering, and an uneasiness creeping into his bones. No, he didn't have time for this. Turn around, you coward, and be brought to your knees honorably. Thousands have died by your hand, and the bells are tolling. The cloaked man chuckled, his shoulders bouncing as he turned his head to the sky. Then, in an exaggerated spin on the ball of his heel, he spun around to face Abyssal. His face was concealed by a circular mask split into 3 segments. In the top 2 segments, 2 eyes stared back at him, seeming to glow as his silhouette was cast into glorious radiance by the moonlight at his back. The mask had no mouth, no nose, only eyes. Take off the mask now. No, I don't think I will. Unlike you, who parades around for the sake of fame, I make my sacrifices in anonymity. Abyssal pulled with rage, this villain trying to call his own actions into question. Outstretching his hand, he lunged forward, attempting to rip off the mask. With a scrape and a flash, his hand thudded to the ground, followed by a spray of blood from the stump of his arm. Crying out, he clutched his arm and looked to the man, fury brimming in his eyes. The masked man slowly nodded, methodically, sheathed his sword back into his sheath. Abyssal, drawing on all of his immense power, thrust out the stump of his arm. A new hand knitted itself out of seemingly nothing in a matter of moments. And he fixed it. He strode closer to the masked man with an aura of power and command seeming to form around him. His voice boomed and his eyes seemed to glow. Who do you think you are? The man did not back down. Rather, he walked up to meet Abyssal, nearly chest to chest, hero and villain only a foot apart. The two were the same height, and the masked man stared directly into his eyes. They call me Robespierre. Do you know how many you've killed? By your hand alone, Robespierre. Robespierre stared him down. Abyssal seemed to shrink in that moment, as a mask bore into him. Not a day goes by that I don't hate myself for the thousands that have died because of me. But they were sacrifices, not vain casualties. Sacrifices so that you heroes, you saviors of mankind, wouldn't abuse your power like you have, and so that millions more wouldn't die when you brought your utopias. Abyssal glared at him, but Robespierre continued. I was 12 when I learned the truth, 3 days before my birthday. What are you talking about? Robespierre dismissed his question. I adored you heroes back then. I idolized you, loved you, wanted to be you. I was alive. You can imagine my childish glee when I found myself in the thick of the fight, the battle between the heroic Abyssal and an evil villain. I was in awe of the lights, the sounds, the sheer magnitude of it. It was so beautiful. Do you remember that moment too, Abyssal? When, in your epic battle, you wrenched that great tower from the ground and hurled it at your foe. Your invulnerable enemy could not be harmed by such force. You knew that as well as he did. The tower broke into 2 pieces against the building behind it, and they all crashed to the ground. Did you ever stop to consider that while you and he may be comfortable in your invincibility, the people below were not? I remember that moment. All that was left of my mother was a mangled arm, and I was one of the lucky ones. You tore families apart simply by existing in a moment, ruined lives and killed friends, family, children. And in the end, you got a medal, and I got sent to the orphanage." Havasu remained silent. He had not a retort, no heroic response, because what could he say? In truth, he did not remember that day. That same scene happened so many times, across so many places. You heroes, you caused so much death and suffering simply by existing, never truly considering the power of your powers. You were supposed to protect us, and you tore us apart. Do you really think it's a surprise that the common people, the mere mortals, would grow restless and sick of your abusement of power? Robespierre stood on the edge of the building, looking down at the street below, almost contemplating it. He then turned on the ball of his feet to face Havasu. "You know why I fight? Just like the people of this world do. You and your superpowered comrades brand me a villain, because I was the first one who was brave enough to stand up first to challenge your authority. But to the people, to the men, women, and children you were sworn to protect, held responsible to serve. I am their hero." Story number 2. Crossover episode, written by Kaiser5243. As we sat in orbit around the planet designated Earth, the other admirals and I stared at our monitors in confused silence. The humans had not armed a single defensive measure to prevent our invasions. I double and triple-checked the readings in front of me, but they held no answers. We were well within range of their primitive senses. Hell, they could probably see us from the surface at this range. All of our research told us to expect a severe, violent reaction upon making ourselves known, but they did nothing. "Maybe they are scared," Second Admiral Shalongas joked, but we could tell he did not believe his own words. Before anyone could respond, a notification of an incoming signal flashed across the main monitor. "That's not possible," shouted the technician as he frantically typed away at the station. "It's a direct hail from Earth. Our intel shows that they don't even have the technology for that. What do they want me to do?" The other officers and I looked at each other, then to the fleet admiral at the loss. He slowly shook his head, utterly bewildered, then waved a tentacle towards the monitor. "Might as well see what they want. Put it through." The technician paused for a moment before making an obedient trill and pressed some keys at his station. A video feed opened on the main monitor, and before us sat a strange human. Its fur was grey and scraggly. It was behind a desk wearing a long tan trench coat with a bored expression on its face. "Oh, good, it worked. Good evening, gentlemen. It's great to finally get a face-to-face meeting, but unfortunately I'm going to have to ask you to leave." The command deck fell silent. The audacity of this creature. The fleet admiral composed himself first, indignant rage showing by the red color he took. "You dare speak to me like that? We have your planet surrounded. Is this supposed to be some show of bravado? Every human on your planet should be aware of our presence, but now, yet your governments have yet to lift a finger in defense. Are the humans that afraid? Who are you anyway? Who do you represent?" The man on the monitor raised a finger to silence the admiral, that bored expression never leaving its face. "First things first, you are mistaken. Only 14 people, including myself, are aware that you even exist. I represent those individuals. You may call me the administrator." The man lifted a white mug off the desk and loudly sipped at the liquid inside. It made an exaggerated "ah" noise as it set the mug back down. "Somewhere on your home planet is a large steel box. I can't tell you where exactly because, honestly, we don't know. Bending reality is unreliable, but I assure you it is there. Now, you can leave like I asked, or I could be forced to let what is in the box out. This will lead to a slow, violent, and bloody death of your entire species, one being at a time. The choice is yours." The video feed cuts out and the human disappears. The fleet admiral immediately jumped to action. "Begin charging the weapons. Prepare for invasion. These humans think they can bluff the great Deathworlder Empire. We will show them the meaning of fear." The room exploded into activity as the men at their stations began preparing for war. As the guns warmed up and the cruisers moved into position, another message came across the screen. This one opened on its own, and suddenly every monitor had picked a strange humanoid face staring out of them. The creature was horrific. Its skin was pale and pulled taut across its skull, the mouth opened impossibly wide, as if screaming in great anguish. The eyes were solid white, and even though it was obviously blind, it still seemed to be able to see me somehow. Alarm bells began ringing all across the command deck. "What is happening?" "Sir, we don't know. Whenever this picture is, it's all through our system. It's being displayed on every monitor, on every ship, and, we're getting reports of it appearing on the screens across Deathworlder. Whatever it is, they want everyone to see it." The fleet admiral began cycling through the readouts rapidly as Earth's defense systems began to come online. The last thing I heard before the missiles hit was, "What the fuck is SCP-096? End of chapter. I would quickly like to thank our Tier 5 patrons and channel members: Casper Arnholt, Cam Maxwell, it's difficult to pronounce, Lord Arishikal, Dragzoon WRE, and Arcadian. Thank you very much.